That's an endangered species at most. What would be the scientific purpose of killing it?
Revenge.
The Life Aquatic, coming up next. Welcome back to Nerd is the New Cool. I'm Justin. With me, as always, is my good friend, Mr. Jon Lambert.
Hello, everybody.
And coming out from behind the back, pulling back the curtain, our executive producer extraordinaire,
Getting out of the booth.
other Justin Sywell.
Well, hello. There's not really a booth here, but
Well,
there's
it's
a table.
it's a metaphorical booth.
Okay.
There's not a booth yet.
Yet.
Yes. When we make this big time, there'll be a booth.
Right.
I want you to be in the other room
There.
completely.
Yeah.
with a
Through glass.
plexiglass screen. That way, when you chime in, it really is like, oh.
No.
Oh.
You really got to push a button, and that's the only way we can hear you.
There you go.
Well, he's here today because this is one of his favorite movies, and it's The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou, and it's the 20th anniversary. So, Sywell, we're going to start with you. When did you first see this?
So it was a Christmas release, if I remember right. I don't know that I saw it on the day it was released, but I know it was right around then. I saw an early theatrical run.
Yeah, I'm with you too. This was like right in my Wes Anderson wheelhouse,
Exactly.
where I would see every Wes Anderson movie that came out, if not the first night, premiere night, whatever. It was within a week or two.
100%. I think this was when he was at his peak, and I was very excited to go see this movie.
We're gonna get into Wes Anderson in a second. I want to hear from Lambert though, because this is the first time you've seen this.
That is correct.
I
I finished it this morning.
I love when you've never seen a movie before, and it always shocks me. It shocks me that you haven't seen a lot of Wes Anderson films,
This is the first Wes Anderson film I've ever seen in my life.
and that's
I've not
absolutely
seen any of them.
that is so surprising. Just
Because I was on Amazon and I was looking because it was like, hey, I paused it. It's like other movies, and it was, Atomic City, and
Yeah.
then all the other. I'm like, nope,
Rushmore?
nope,
Royal
Royal
Tenenbaums.
Tenenbaums? That's like my all-time favorite
Nope.
movie.
none of them, nothing.
Wow.
You're gonna be able to give us
The
a real,
Darjeeling Limited, nothing.
yeah.
I
You're
couldn't-
giving
I
us
can't
some
even pronounce it.
a real fresh perspective. But when we get into Wes Anderson, I'm just gonna look strictly at you, Justin.
Yeah,
and
okay.
and you and I can just talk.
You can't look at me. So I remember talking to my older brother about this,
Mhm.
and he said, and I was telling him about the episode last weekend. I was like, yeah, I got to watch it. I was like, I've never seen a Wes Anderson movie. And he's like, once you've seen one, you've seen them all.
Yeah, I think that
I wouldn't disagree with that assessment. Yeah.
he's got a pretty clear vibe. Well, let's just get into it. Let's talk about Wes Anderson.
Yeah.
So I pulled a lot of this from the internet, so I'm just going to kind of rattle through a few things about him and his background. Would you say his films, the one you've seen, Lambert and Sybel, all the ones you've seen, would you agree they are fairly eccentric,
Eclectic.
eclectic? Sure.
Eclectic, eccentric. I would agree with both of those.
They're kind of all over the place.
Yeah, and the one thing that's really cool about all of his films is that I love the narration. There's always some type of narrative going through the entire storyline, and there's also just a gigantic ensemble of cast.
Yes.
He has a way of pulling in huge names for even really tiny, small roles, and I think that's hilarious. Yeah.
Well, and
Like
you kind
Angelica Houston.
Yeah, Angelica Houston, who has almost no. I mean, she's got a few really good lines in that movie, but you could also make the movie without her entirely.
Yeah,
and
you
I think
didn't
that's
really.
hilarious.
You didn't need her.
yeah, and a theme that kind of goes throughout a lot of his films. We've got things like grief, loss of innocence, like families that are very dysfunctional.
Mm-hmm.
Now, again, you just got the one dysfunctional family example in this movie,
Yeah.
but we're talking about all the Wes Anderson movies. It's always something going on with either dysfunctional family or even like a dysfunctional upbringing or something that is like deeply traumatizing to make you kind of make them act the way they do.
Yeah, and I think with Wes Anderson plays a lot with, and I don't know what you've pulled on the internet or whatever, but I think he plays a lot with aging. That idea that you reach a certain point in your life where we meet a lot of his characters after they've achieved everything they were going for.
Yeah.
And you see that in a number of his different movies, and I think that's really a fascinating thing that he explores is like almost the melancholy of someone's life as it starts to devolve. Everyone else has a story arc that like we're getting to this place, and that's
we're still building.
We're building.
You've already peaked, and you're on the way down.
Exactly.
Yep.
Some might call him an auteur. That's kind of a thing that you hear a lot from critics. He just got such a unique style that if you put on a movie, I could show you 10 movies or even like 10 5-minute clips, and you would easily be able to be like, that's Wes Anderson. Those are not.
Right.
It's very clear.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So he graduated from St. John's School in Houston in 1987. He actually used that location for Rushmore, the aforementioned Rushmore. He made a lot of silent films when he was younger. He actually credits his father's Super 8 camera that he used to film his brothers and friends, and also kind of wanted to be a writer. He worked part-time as a cinema projectionist at Hogg Memorial Auditorium while he attended the University of Texas at Austin. And he actually met his roommate and future collaborator. Who do we think is his roommate? Come on, guess.
Oh, I actually know the.
You could probably guess. He's in this movie.
He's in this movie?
Mm-hmm.
Wes Anderson's... How old is Wes Anderson?
Probably, I think he's in his
Willem Dafoe.
50s.
No, he's 54 years old or something
Not
like
Willem
that.
Dafoe.
It's not
Owen
Willem
Wilson.
Dafoe.
Owen
Yes,
Wilson.
Owen Wilson. That's right. I was like, I know I read this.
Owen Wilson's in a lot of them.
Yeah, he is.
I saw that from posters.
In fact, and I know
He
we're
was in
going to
Bottle.
do.
Well, did he do? He did Bottle Rocket.
Yeah,
Right?
he did. He did.
Yeah. And I know we're going to do fun facts later, but Owen Wilson was supposed to be writing this movie with him, but then Owen Wilson got, I guess, really big. I don't remember what else was coming out around then, but Owen Wilson was on his way up.
At that point, he's probably racking out like Shanghai Noon and those kind of movies. He's
you're
kind of
right.
becoming an action actor. He's also in Meet the Fockers.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
And it cut me to a bunch of other things too.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll definitely get to Owen Wilson, but yeah, I think that's interesting. And then Wes Anderson graduated with a Bachelor of Arts with a major in philosophy in 1991. And as we already mentioned, Bottle Rocket comes out. That's his first major movie in 1996. And then Rushmore is 2 years later in 1998. So besides Owen Wilson, he also loops in Luke Wilson a lot with these movies. In 2023, it was announced that Anderson was planning to begin his 12th film, which is called The Phoenician Scheme. And this will be starring Michael Cera, Benicio del Toro, Bryan Cranston, and Jeff Goldblum. I'm sure there'll be a ton of other people in that movie.
And there's going to be somebody who gets dropped in at the last minute that no press release, nothing will have ever mentioned. And then you're going to watch the movie and they're going to be in there.
Yep.
And then give it a few years and they'll actually be on the actual title credits as being in the movie.
Yeah, you're right. Well, Lambert, we're going to leave you out of this for 1 second, and we're going to talk about our favorite Wes Anderson movie. Not necessarily the peak, but what's your favorite? Let me rattle.
Sure,
Because
absolutely.
there's a lot of them that I kind of forgot about.
Mm-hmm.
So Bottle Rocket's 96, Rushmore's 98, Royal Tenenbaums is 2001, this is 2020 or 2004, Darjeeling Limited is 2007, The Fantastic Mr. Fox is in 2009, Moonrise Kingdom 2012, Grand Budapest Hotel 2014, Isle of Dogs, which is a wacky one.
That was a weird one.
It's like stop motion.
Yeah.
2018, 2021 is The French Dispatch, and then this last year, 2023, Asteroid City.
Without a doubt, my favorite is The Royal Tenenbaums.
Yeah. Okay.
I would actually argue that's probably my favorite movie of all time.
Yeah, I would say it's top 10 for me as well. I do think you got to give honorable mention to Rushmore
Yes.
because it is, well, I think even though Bottle Rocket's his first one, I think a lot of people saw Rushmore first. And then we're like, oh, he made one before this. Let's go back and watch Bottle Rocket.
And I feel like Rushmore is where Wes Anderson actually defined his style a lot more than Bottle Rocket. So, like, I think he was experimenting a lot in his first film, but Rushmore is where he committed to it. He actually found his stride, found what his niche was. So
yeah, and I got to shout out Grand Budapest Hotel, but we'll talk about awards and things like that later on.
Yeah.
Lambert, you look like you want to contribute.
I was just looking at Owen Wilson's filmography and trying to understand like where he was in his career when he made this. And yeah, you're right, because he did Shanghai Noon and Meet the Parents came out in 2000. Zoolander came out in 2001.
Oh, I forgot about Zoolander.
I completely forgot about
And
Zoolander.
then it starts Behind Enemy Lines with 2001. Shanghai Nights was 2003. Starsky and Hutch was 2004.
Oh my God,
So yeah, he was
building.
He was starting to become like a well-known actor.
just
And Wedding Crashers was 05. Was
Oh,
the year after
wow.
this. So like after that, like
For some reason, that's the one that made me feel really old out of everything you just
Wedding
mentioned.
Crashers?
Yeah, I don't know why that one, but yeah, so that makes sense. Like Owen Wilson was supposed to be like the co-writer on this film, and I'm sure Justin will get there eventually. But like this film,
he had a lot of
two
other stuff
writers.
going on.
but he was too busy. So it was actually a lot. This guy kind of makes me appreciate Hollywood writers because it became easier to just cast him as a lead role in this movie than it was to have him actually writing the movie. I thought that was really fascinating.
Right.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the movie. We've talked enough about Wes Anderson and Owen Wilson, but I'm gonna start on the positives because I don't necessarily know what vibe I'm gonna get from Lambert yet. But let's go positive. Sywell, what makes this movie great, memorable, whatever?
So I don't know how deep into the woods you want to get.
Get
yet.
deep.
Okay. So on a deep level, I think Wes Anderson is playing with a lot of themes with this movie. And the very reason why it's so controversial, because it's not controversial in terms of like what you see on film, it's pretty tame. But in terms of the critics cannot, there's no consensus on this movie. People hate it, people love it, and a bunch of people are like right in between of like, I don't know. Even one of the consensus trackers online is all over the place. So it's like there is no consensus on this movie. I think part of the reason I love it so much is because there are moments of this movie that are super tight and super well shot and super funny and super sharp. And then there are other moments that look like they were just slapped together on the cutting room floor. There's not even continuity in between like the same shot. The audio dubbing is different from one place to another. And I think part of that lends to the theme. So the very reason why it's controversial among critics is why I love this movie. You see Bill Murray as the lead character moving past the peak of his life, trying to find in a moment of extreme grief, he's trying to find purpose and meaning in his life. And we get this kind of clear view into like an older aging man who is like kind of trying to rediscover himself. And with that, as we all move through our lives, there's really great moments and there's these really depressing, sad moments, and it's sloppy, and you kind of have to just go with it and take it all as it is. And I think the movie forces the viewer to just, this is what it is. You can't have the good without this bad. You can't have this moment without this other moment. Every single thing in this movie is linear, so you're not going to get the epic rescue on Little Ping Island without some really boring, sloppy stuff happening earlier. So
yeah,
that's why I really like this movie.
I mean, it is a slow burn, and I love that you brought up.
I just had a hilarious thought that, like, you know what would have been perfect? Like, taking everything that you just said, you know what would have been perfect? If you actually had a scene of someone going to the bathroom. Just like,
You're not wrong.
Taking the time to just be like, Bill Murray, you know what? I got to hit the head.
And then a close up
however
while
long,
he's doing that
however
for
long,
about a minute straight.
One or two, doesn't matter.
I 100%
and then
agree.
Okay, anyways, what were we talking about?
It wouldn't have even felt out of place.
No, it wouldn't have.
It
It
would
wouldn't
not
have
have.
at all. That just popped in my head for some reason.
No, and the way this is chopped up, I think that's so brilliant for you to say, Sywell, is that you've got these. It's almost as if they filmed just everything. And then as they were going through and cutting it, they were like, you know what? We've got some additional shots we can put on here. It's almost like extreme B-roll that was staged.
You're not wrong.
I guess.
I know in some areas, I don't have any experience in Hollywood itself, but I know in some of the motion picture creation and whatnot, you film a whole bunch of stuff and you film a bunch of different takes, but there's always maybe a month or two into post-production when they're actually putting it all together. Like the actors have moved on, but usually the contracts all have a writer that says you will come back for a week or two while we do reshoots.
Yeah.
You know, we need the scene lit in a slightly different way. And I agree with you, Justin. I feel like Wes Anderson was like, no reshoots. Like, we're just going to work with what we have. And I like it.
Yeah, I love it too. And it is one of those movies. I watched this with Jana. She'd never seen it. And I said, the way we watch movies nowadays, I don't know, I'm sure you guys are in the same boat, is we put a movie on and then we also have a second screen in front of our face while we're watching movies. And I said, you just can't do that with this movie. You really have to be engaged because so much of the movie is the subtlety, like the background, what's going on with the characters, even their facial expressions. I didn't count how many words were spoken in this movie, but it's really not a lot as compared to most.
I actually did download the script and I watched it a couple times in advance of this. It's one of my all-time favorite movies, not exactly a bad investment of my time. It's a short script. It really is. There's not a lot of dialogue. relatively speaking, and it's a relatively quiet movie too. But as you mentioned, slow burn. But oh god, there's like really, really subtle things throughout the movie that I just, having seen it 30 times now, I
Yeah.
crack up every time I see it.
Well, some of my favorite scenes, for example, the two favorite scenes I can think of off the top of my head is when they've got the jellyfish, and then the music breaks out, and just the Bill Murray, the slow dance, and all of a sudden he's getting into it. And then the other part is, and this part cracks me every time just thinking about it, is with Willem Dafoe, and he storms out, and then you see him through the the glass, and he just kind of peeks his head in and looks, and then I don't know that I'm not doing a very good job explaining, but that is my favorite part of the movie.
I think we're going to perpetually struggle with how to describe these scenes, because if anyone's listening to this and hasn't seen it, nothing we say is going to make any sense.
No.
But
I've only seen it once, and it barely makes sense to me.
similar to your one of my favorite, like, I just crack up every time. Willem Dafoe's character is very like, I don't even know how to describe him.
He's the older brother. He's the Duke. He's been
Okay, yes.
and this may be why I relate to him so well, being a older brother to the prince.
Yeah.
But he feels very slighted by this new,
There you go.
actual son. What's his name? Bill Murray is his father figure, basically.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, he even mentions at one point in the movie, he comes straight out and say, I always thought of you as my two dads, right? But there's this beautiful scene where, like, Owen Wilson is hyping up Bill Murray, who's like, we're going to sell the ship for scrap, like, whatever. He's, like, at his bottom, and Owen Wilson, like, pumps him up real quick, and they do the hands in.
Yeah.
If you look really, really far into the background, you can see Willem Dafoe out of focus in the back, like, eagerly, like, sticking his hand out and, like, doing it with them, even though he's, like, on the other side of the ship.
Yeah. Okay. I want to hear Lambert's perspective, because I think you before we even started recording, I think you've got some good thoughts that you said to your wife earlier today.
Yes. So, well, just going back to what Saiwa was talking about like the performance and Bill Murray and like the grief and like all the other stuff. You can see that, but then like just Bill Murray's tone makes you not believe it. Is he really grieving? Is he really hitting rock bottom? Is he really in a bad mood? Is he like, because like just the way that like, and again, I don't know if it's on purpose or if it's not or whatever, and we'll never know, but it's like, yeah, he should be sad, but like, I always caught myself with like, but is he really? Like, is he really that broken up that his friend got eaten by a shark? I don't know. I don't necessarily believe him.
I can agree with you.
Right.
The very opening scene where the jaguar shark first eats his friend, the very first words he says when he's in the water is that thing rolling. And then he's like, Esteban got eaten. Esteban got eaten.
Exactly. It's all about getting the shot. And it's all about like making part one, making part two, and like and maybe eventually finding it and killing it. So anyways, I wanted to comment on that. My general thoughts for this movie. I did not hate it. I did not love it. So I'm in that middle ground of like whatever. I don't get it.
Yeah.
This is a movie that in order to really appreciate it, you have to see it several times. You have to. I've only seen it once. The only question for me is, am I going to dedicate the time to watch it enough to where I can formulate an opinion on it, whether I like it or whether I hate it? Because like right now, I'm just kind of in that middle where it's like, I don't really know what I just watched.
Yep. And
like I heard the words. I speak English. I understand. Like, and I even told her, I was like, I could appreciate it. Like, it was all over the place. There was a plot. There was an underlying plot. So like, at least it was moving. But like, even in individual scenes, it's like da 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 da. Turn, and I'm like, what is? It's like squirrel. Oh, hey, look at that thing. Anyways, what were we talking about? Oh, what's going on over here? Hey, let's take this whirly bird. Let's. I'm like, what is going?
I kind of feel like that's kind of what I first of all, I agree with you.
Mhm.
It took me a couple views to really appreciate this, but I kind of think that's almost every Wes Anderson movie, frankly.
Right.
And I don't even know if it's the same movie. It's if you watch a second Wes Anderson movie in general, I think you will appreciate that movie better than you appreciated the one you saw previously. Whether it's the same movie you watch twice or you watch a different one.
Oh, that's an interesting. Yeah.
Right? And it kind of like burns, it like builds.
Yeah.
To
You're
where
not wrong.
if like Jana, for example, watched one of the most recent ones, what was the most recent one I just said a
Asteroid
second ago?
City?
No, French Dispatch.
Oh,
And,
shit,
and she
yeah.
was like, same thing. I don't get it. What's even happening with this? And I'm meanwhile watching and cracking up, going like, oh, all these little things with Benicio del Toro and whatever are hilarious. But I think it's because I get the comedy and I'm like more like tuned into it, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, if the first
Nah, I
first
get it.
viewing of a movie, I don't think you're going to appreciate as much as maybe you should.
Nope. I'll completely. I enjoyed the Wes Anderson movies I had seen prior to this, Rushmore and Royal Tenenbaums, were I think the two I saw. So I was really excited for this to come out. First time I saw it in theaters, I was like, "What the hell did I just watch?" Like, I did not like it.
What was that? Yeah.
But Justin, to speak some personal experience, it was like a few years later, I picked it back up and just said, "I don't know, I'm going to watch this again." And again, still didn't really know that I enjoyed it, but I was like, okay, I kind of know what's coming next, so it was a little bit more familiar. And it was really about it was some moment in college where somebody was like, "Oh, you've got the Life Aquatic. Do you want to watch it?" And I'm like, "Sure, okay, whatever. I'll sit here for 2 hours, like whatever," thinking it would be really boring, and I'm laughing like crazy. And ever since then, I've
Yeah,
loved
I
this
don't think
movie.
I don't think I
So-
laughed the entire time.
Yeah, because it's not that kind of humor.
No.
No, it's not. It's
But
it's
now-
very dark.
Now I can't
It's very weird.
I can't watch it without chuckling at it, laughing at
Mhm.
it, because I'm like, there's so much happening, but
I
it
felt-
takes a while to get there.
I felt this way about Big Lebowski.
I felt that way
I would
about
agree with that.
Napoleon Dynamite. That
Yeah.
was the
Yes,
first one that
same.
came to me. Like first time I saw it, same thing. Hated it. I don't know why I watched it
Mhm.
again. Now I can appreciate it.
Yeah.
Now I laugh because
Yeah.
I understand what's going on and I understand like I get what they're trying to do. Whereas the first time you watch it, you don't know what the hell you're watching. You're like, what year is it? I
Yeah.
still don't know what year it is, but at least I get it.
Yeah.
Right. It is kind of it's teetering the line of, is this actually a comedy? Is it a drama?
Yeah,
Is
is
it a
it-
quirky
is
indie?
it a
I don't even know what it
documentary?
is.
Is it
Documentary?
Is it a fake documentary?
Mockumentary?
Is it
Mockumentary.
a mockumentary? Why are there so many fake fish going on? That was the one thing I wrote. That was another thing I wrote down. I'm like, what
The
is going
fake
on?
fish.
Yeah, like what is happening right now? It's like they couldn't like get some stock footage from like Australia.
I think the only thing that was real was that sea turtles actually do exist, but beyond that, I think every single
Every
aquatic
other like,
and I should have made a list.
oh, it's a Lego fish. What?
But there's a whole list of like all the fake creatures they come up with. Some of them were just absurdly insane. A lot of them don't appear are never spoken about in the movie, but there's a scene where they have the library of the ship and you can see in the background like the list of all of these different creatures they've studied,
Yeah.
and it's hysterical.
Here's a couple. The
Oh.
rhinestone bluefin,
Yep.
the crayon ponyfish,
Yep.
the wild snow mongoose,
Yes.
electric jellyfish,
Oh,
and sugar crabs.
Sugar crabs.
Sugar crabs.
Well, let's get into the categories. According to IMDb, as you mentioned, Lambert, there is a plot, and I think this maybe summarizes it well. With a plan to exact revenge on a mythical shark that killed his partner, oceanographer Steve Zissou, played by Bill Murray, rallies a crew that includes his estranged wife, a journalist, and a man who may or may not be his son.
True.
Now, this came out December 25th, 2004. I think it's so fascinating. This was a Christmas release. This type of movie does not come out on Christmas anymore. It's either a movie that they want to win Best Oscar or they want it's some big old IP type film,
Mhm.
right? So like Aquaman 2 is an example of one that came out. Let's see, Wonder Woman 84. That's another big blockbuster they wanted to put out to make money. Some Oscar ones. We got Aviator. That also came out this year in 2004, which is crazy to think about. Dreamgirls, 2006. Marley and Me, 2008. Django, 2012. Les Mis, 2012. Wolf of Wall Street, 2013. Into the Woods is in 2014. That's probably more of a big blockbuster type movie. We got Soul that came out in 2020. Babylon came out in 2022, even though it didn't do anything. Everyone thought it was going to win. Hidden Figures even came out in 2016. So these are all like, again, Academy Award or Academy type movies, or let's just make a shit ton of money.
Like 1917 and 2019.
Yes. You just don't see You just don't see these kind of
Which did
quirky
win awards.
indie movies.
That won awards too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that entire list was well, it's either win awards or make a ton of money, and Life Aquatic is neither of those things.
No.
Well, let's speak to that. It had
Yeah.
a budget of $50 million. It was his largest budgeted movie. It didn't make any money, and it earned back only $34.8 million worldwide. So it was a big time flop for the most part.
It was a dud.
And it had a runtime of 1 hour and 59 minutes. You would say it felt every minute of that, yes,
Yeah, I did.
Lambert?
It took me 3 times. I started it and then started falling asleep because, granted, I was tired, and the beginning of the movie is very slow. So I'm like, what is going? And I could feel myself falling asleep. So I'm like, no, I can't. Like, I need to pay attention. So I paused it and then just fell asleep. And then went back, tried it last night, fell asleep again, finished the last 30 minutes this morning.
I didn't have that feeling.
No. Maybe the first couple times I saw it, I'm like, oh, this is pretty long.
Sure.
But no, I watched it again last night just because, well, why not? And it felt like that was the fastest watch I've ever done.
Yeah.
It feels like a very short movie to me.
Me too. BS rankings, we kind of mentioned this a little bit. Rotten Tomatoes gives it a 57% overall with an audience score of 82%. That's a pretty big gap
That's
there,
a huge gap.
Mm-hmm.
which speaks to it being very polarizing.
Mhm.
IMDb, shockingly, gives it a 7.2. But again, I think it's the people like it.
I agree. The other thing that's interesting is the IMDb score has gone up over the years. So this is one of those movies that was universally, I shouldn't say universally, it was controversial, but like it did not do well in the box office. People didn't really like it. But in years since, it's become more popular. So I think it's reached cult classic status now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the Spielberg Award for directing goes to Wes Anderson. Let's talk about writing, though. The Tarantino Award for writing. So this is Wes Anderson's first movie co-written with Noah Baumbach. You guys have probably heard that. Well, you already mentioned his
Mhm.
usual writing partner was Owen Wilson, but he was basically unavailable. Let's talk about Noah Baumbach. What's your favorite movie written by Noah Baumbach? Here are a couple. I'm not sure if any of you guys have seen all these movies, frankly. Kicking and Screaming comes out in 1995. That's not the Kicking and Screaming with Will Ferrell. Yeah.
Oh, that's the one I was thinking of.
No, this has Eric Stoltz, Josh Hamilton, Parker Posey. It's definitely a different type of movie than Kicking and Screaming with Will Ferrell.
Got nothing.
This is obviously 2004, Madagascar 3, Marriage Story, and also co-wrote Barbie.
I've seen Barbie.
I've not seen Barbie. I need to see Barbie.
Actually,
I've not seen it.
objectively, I really enjoyed Barbie. I thought it was a
I've heard good things.
really great movie. Fun watch.
Yeah, I think that's the best written of all these. Marriage Story is very depressing.
I've never seen any of these others.
Isn't that the one with Adam Driver?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm.
Scarlett
About-
Johansson.
About like getting a divorce.
Yep.
Yeah, that would not gonna watch that.
Let's give a real quick nod to all the Madagascar movies.
Oh, I love Madagascar.
I like Madagascar movies.
Yeah, especially
You haven't seen them?
I haven't seen any.
Oh, the first one.
I like that
Amazing.
this is what we got going on here. Like either you haven't seen it and you have, and I'm like the middle, or vice versa, and I'm like the middle ground that's seen everything.
I love
basically.
I love the Madagascar movies.
I bring everyone together.
The lemurs are the best, and the penguins. The lemurs and
The penguins are the best. Lemurs are second best.
I don't know.
All right,
Sacha Baron Cohen.
This is not a Madagascar pod. We're talking about Life Aquatic. The Tom Hanks Award for Best Leading Role. I got 2 nominees here. I don't know if you guys agree that the second one should be on here, but I kind of think you should. So Bill Murray plays Steve Zissou, and Owen Wilson plays Ned Plimpton. Real quick note about Bill Murray. He actually had to leave the production to fly to L.A. to go to the Golden Globe Awards, where he accepted the award for Best Actor in a Comedy for Lost in Translation. But he came back, finished filming the movie.
He could have done that remote. Whatever.
I don't think that was a thing in 2003.
I don't think it was. I don't think that was.
All right, Bill Murray, Owen Wilson. Those are the 2 nominees. Lambert, what do you
Bill
think?
Murray.
Is this even a
It's
conversation?
Bill Murray,
Right.
hands down. Don't get me wrong. I think Owen Wilson does a phenomenal job throughout this movie, and I know we'll get there later. I don't know that I know of somebody else who could play that, but Bill Murray, just his deadpan way of delivering everything throughout the movie is amazing. He's of course the best leading role.
It's interesting because I think that Owen Wilson, even though Bill Murray usually plays like a side role, he's not. I mean, not anymore. He's certainly not anymore the lead. I think Owen Wilson plays a better secondary character. I'm not sure I love him as the lead in a lot of movies. I think he's good maybe as like a duo. He's good as like the the third person or someone who comes in to make a hopa, as a tertiary character. The comic
Yeah.
relief.
Yeah, comic relief was what was going through my head. Yeah.
Yeah.
You might be right.
Maybe this is just the one example I'm thinking of. I'm just trying to think of the movies that he's played the lead that I like. Think he's the best main character. I don't know. Anyway,
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I can't name anything where I'm like, "Oh, yeah, other than this." So,
Right.
yeah.
this next one I think is going to be hard, and then the last category will be probably the last acting category might be hard for a different reason.
I added some to the deep cut characters.
Good.
but
I'm
we'll
glad.
get there. Yeah.
I'm glad you did. So the next category, the other 4 Jacksons, secondary characters, we got Kate Blanchett, who plays Jane Winslet Richardson, basically the journalist.
Mhm.
Angelica Houston plays Eleanor Zissou, the ex-wife. Willem Dafoe plays Klaus Daimler. Jeff Goldblum plays Alistair Hennessy. And Michael Gambon plays Oshiri Draculis. Sorry. It's fucking crazy.
Who the hell is that?
The craziest name. He's like his
the financier.
yeah.
Oh,
His advisor.
got it.
The really
I know who
old
that
guy.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know. I know. Who
You
that
know
is.
him from Harry Potter.
Harry Potter.
Well, you wouldn't know him from Harry Potter.
No,
but
I wouldn't.
other humans that have seen Jesus. All right, he plays Dumbledore. Anyway, of these five, what do you got, Cybele?
I love all of these actors for different reasons. I'm going to say that the best secondary character, though, and I'm going against my man Jeff, but Willem Dafoe. I literally have his photo up elsewhere in my house, but I love Willem Dafoe in general. I think he's phenomenal. And then on top of that, I think he just plays his character so incredibly well in this movie.
Yeah, it is a very it's a large departure from what kind of role he usually plays.
Yes, agreed.
I don't think of Willem Dafoe as a comedic actor, but he's really good when he does
he's
comedy.
So good when he does comedy. And I think this is where, and I need to look up his filmography, but I think this is where you actually see his versatility as an actor come out, because he's hysterical and he's so committed to it.
Well, yeah, I mean, he does this. He also plays in Spider-Man. He plays the Green Goblin.
The Green Goblin.
And then, of course, what he's most known for
Boondock
is
Saints.
I was going to say like Platoon,
Oh, you're right.
But
You're
Boon-
absolutely right.
but Boondock Saints. as
Boondock
well.
Saints too.
He's
Yeah.
in just so many things. I forgot he's in Boondock
Boondock
Saints.
Saints,
Yeah.
man.
He's so good in that
He's
movie.
hilarious.
Yeah.
He's just, he is.
Well, Lambert, do you have another
He's
pick
very
besides Willem
I
Dafoe?
was going to say Willem Dafoe.
Okay. This is not going to be a lot of fun if we always pick the same characters, but
Well,
I could make arguments for any of the others. I think Angelica Houston's performance is phenomenal because so this is also fun. She does not like Bill Murray. They don't get along. In real life, they do not get along, and they definitely did not get along when they were filming this. So that kind of frosty vibe that you see she plays his estranged wife, like that frosty vibe is actually pretty genuine to how they interact with each other. So I think that's hilarious. She did give credit to him at one point because I guess when her spouse or somebody died, and he was one of the few people who actually came and paid respect. So they're respectful of each other, but they don't particularly get along.
so she's not doing a whole lot of acting. in
She's
this
not
movie.
doing a whole lot of acting, but she has some amazing cut scenes that are great. Like very early on in the movie when he starts beating the crap out of that heckler in the crowd,
Mhm.
and she just lights a cigarette and walks away. I'm just like, I love you.
Yeah.
And then of course Jeff Goldblum. I love Jeff Goldblum in general.
Just the part when he's playing poker with the
With the
Bold.
kidnappers.
Oh, are you here to rescue me? Yes.
Yeah. Full.
she gets shot, and then
And then he's just.
but then the
running.
next time you see him, he's
just
running,
Yeah,
covering
he's
the bullet.
running like, no
Ah.
big deal.
I'm well insured, so I'll probably come out ahead, but I'm gonna have to crew up from scratch.
All right, Willem Dafoe. Backup singers. These are some very deep cuts.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna read them, and then you please add commentary here. We got Seymour Castle plays Esteban Duplantier, 219 credits, but you most know him most likely from, if you're listening to this podcast, Dusty in Royal Tenenbaums, his buddy or whatever, and also plays the doctor, and also plays the elevator attendant.
Yeah, that's how I picture him, as the elevator attendant.
But he comes in and
But
he's
he
also
comes in and
acting
he's
like the
also
doctor.
yeah.
Noah Taylor plays Vladimir Wolodarski, has 73 credits. You're going to know him as most likely Lambert, the manager from Almost Famous.
That's what I remember him
Okay.
as.
Also, he chopped off Jaime's hand in Game of Thrones.
That too.
And he's also in Peaky Blinders. Noah Baumbach makes an appearance, plays Philip. Also made an appearance in Kicking and Screaming. Hal Yamanouchi plays the Chief Pirate. Also, you'll know him from The Wolverine and Zoolander 2. Bud Cort plays Bond Company stooge, who's been in what? Go ahead.
Well, so that's one of the ones I added because like nobody considers him a highlight of this movie except Bud Cort has like this extensive acting history. MASH, Dogma, Coyote Ugly, and then he's in the DC animated universe. He's the voice of Toyman. And he's got this really extensive list of things that he's done. There's a couple others that he's done that are allegedly famous movies. I had never personally heard of them, but yeah, and like he's cast as the Bond Company stooge, which I just think is hilarious.
Doesn't have a name.
Yeah.
No. Once you've become a voice actor, I think you've made it.
Yeah.
Finally, Matthew Gray Gruber plays Tico the intern, and he's also been in Criminal Minds.
Yes, that's what I remember.
That's
I
that's
reckon. I was
Do
like,
you really?
I know that. Well, because Megan watches it, so like
Yeah.
I've seen enough of them just like sitting on the couch like while she's watching a show, and I'm like, oh, I recognize that guy.
Interesting.
so I added him because for one, he is the reason Criminal Minds lasted as long as it did and then went off the air when it did, because when he left the show, the fans departed. So I thought that was really interesting. I'm not a huge Criminal Minds guy, but I thought that was really interesting. The reason I added him was because, number one, he's the only intern in the movie that actually does anything other than quit. All the other interns quit.
Yeah.
But he also, if you watch the entire movie, just like every time he's in the scene, if you're watching him, he is hysterical. Like the stuff he's doing in the background and whatnot. And then the other thing is he got his start in Hollywood by being Wes Anderson's actual intern. So, yeah.
Well, I think we got to give it to Matthew Gray Gruber then.
Yes.
The old Tico. You cool with that?
I like Tico. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Well, actually, in the credits, he is known as intern number 1.
Okay. But he gets a name at some point in the movie.
At some point in the movie, they give him a name, but you don't know if that's his real name or not.
Yeah.
Because that happens a couple times.
That is true. There's a lot of made up shit.
Yeah.
John Williams category for music. So first of all, we've got the composer who has 262 composing credits. It's Mark Mothersbaugh. Also composed. I put this filmography on here because it's speaking of like an eclectic group of movies. Cocaine Bear, Tiger King, Thor Ragnarok, Ice Age, the Lego Movie, 21 Jump Street, Rugrats, and also did Rushmore. That is a
bizarre combination of things.
Now, I personally think that the guitarist is actually the MVP of the film.
100%.
And that's Sue Jorge. And I guess Pele dos Santos is maybe his real name.
No.
That's his character.
That's his character name. His
Oh.
character's name is Pele.
Yeah, they call him
That's
Pele.
right. Yeah.
Because he got shot by the pirates, and it was like Pele.
Yeah.
Get him a first aid kit.
So Sue Jorge is his character, or is his real name, and Pele is his character name. Yeah. Now there's a whole album actually of this guy, which is pretty cool. It's like a collection of David Bowie songs. It's got an original song called Team Zissou. He actually recorded this in Portuguese for the soundtrack to the film. Couple songs that are on here that you'll recognize. Like again, these are all David Bowie songs. Rebel Rebel, Life on Mars. That's like one of my favorite David Bowie songs. Ziggy Stardust, Lady Stardust, Changes, Oh You Pretty Things, Rock and Roll Suicide, Queen Bitch, Quicksand, Space Oddity. I mean, he's the MVP.
100%. 100%.
Yes.
And also just the character himself is the music itself is hysterical, but then on top of that, to have that level of talent musically and then also play the character that he plays is hilarious to me. Like just the complete, I don't care about any of this. The pirates are literally boarding the ship and he's just watching them. Like, he is the lookout.
He's like the narrator essentially that also is on set. It's a very interesting take. Next category, scenes to nerd out on. I have a list here, and I think that if you want to add more into it or even go into depth, feel free. Silo, you probably have
a list.
A longer list.
No, it's moderate.
Mine is 17 scenes.
I have 8, so you win. Yeah.
All right. Well, I've got the intro and premiere. So like the Death of Esteban, just the whole opening part.
100%.
I think that's a pretty good part. The let me tell you about my boat. So like just going through the whole boat in the rooms.
I have that scene down, and I have so many reasons why I love that scene.
Why?
Okay, so let's go through the boat, right? This is a research vessel. It's got a sauna with a full-time Swedish masseuse on hand. It's got a kitchen, which has the most technologically advanced equipment on the ship, quote Bill Murray. It has
the 2 swimming dolphin room.
Yeah, the swimming dolphin room. And I literally wrote down the damn dolphins because they just play an interesting role in the mind.
The dolphins
He hates
so much.
the dolphins, and I don't blame him. You have the science project room, but that's the only room in this really creative scene where they pan through the ship. It's the only room where there's no one in it. And when they repeat the scene later in the movie, Bill Murray and Owen Wilson are like running through the ship. That's also the only room where there's no one doing anything in the science room at all. The editing room, which I find hilarious because I don't care when this movie is set. It seems to be set fairly modern to when it was made. The editing equipment in there is ancient, like absolutely off the wall ancient, which is probably why their films have the vibe that they do.
Yeah.
And then my personal favorite was the engine room. And to quote Bill Murray, the bearing castings aren't supposed to look like that, but we can't afford to fix them this year. And they're like warped and leaking. And I'm like, this ship's going to explode. But they can afford the Swedish masseuse.
Yeah. It is pretty.
Yeah.
Priorities.
Yeah.
I'm gonna jump around. I'm not gonna do every scene this time, but I think that my next favorite scene is basically the start of the documentary. Ned almost drowns. Jane leaves. Like that whole part, kind of a long part, and then the voyage begins.
Yeah.
Let's see. I've got the next part, which is kind of like the lead on the shark. They go into unprotected waters and they're investigating the phantom signal. So kind of like that part.
And that's where you do get to see that whole, or I guess it's more the lead up to that scene, but that's where you get, and I can't remember her name, but she plays the female research assistant. I can't remember her
The one
name.
that's always topless.
Yeah, the one that's always topless. But that's the first time you really get to see her explore her, like the character.
Yeah,
and then
she
quits.
She was very against it.
Yeah. But I don't know. I thought you have some great back and forth commentary between the two of them. Yeah.
The next part I put on here I just wrote down pirates.
Yeah. the whole pirate scene.
Yeah.
that whole sequence is hysterical.
Well, yeah, them showing up.
Both of them.
Both of them, yeah.
Both of them. Them kidnapping and them the rescue. Later.
That's the next part I have, which is
the rescue.
Showing up to Hotel Citrion and then the rescue with the poker game.
Yeah.
And then kind of, of course, there's the helicopter crash and Ned dies. Not really a great rewatchable scene.
Finding the shark.
Yeah. We're the quote, we're a dying breed. We're wrapping up. Kind of the characters are all wrapping up. Then they find the jaguar shark. And then kind of the ending montage, walking out to slow motion, Queen Bitch, wraps the movie up.
So,
hold on. Let Lambert, you tell us your favorite.
Yeah, what I'm very curious about
I would
Lambert.
probably have to say the pirates. No. Oh, but which one?
The rescue.
I don't know. They're both wildly ridiculous.
Yeah.
Talk about a friggin' Hollywood clip.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how many times Bill Murray shot without reloading, and those sequences. It was a lot.
It's standing there, just not
standing
getting
there,
hit.
not getting hit at all. Just no. It's probably after they shot Jeff Goldblum. He folds, and he's just standing there, and he's just standing in the doorway, shooting and not getting hit. It's the
funniest like
Right.
shooting scene that doesn't make any sense.
And then Owen Wilson, I think it was Owen Wilson and Willem Dafoe's character run in to help him, and everybody else just stays outside. That's probably my favorite one.
Yeah. Okay. You got Sile. What's yours?
The only one I have a couple that actually the only big one that I have on my list that you didn't mention was the whole Hennessy laboratory scene where they're stealing all the stuff from Jeff Goldblum's character.
I did kind of cut out some Angelica Houston and Jeff Goldblum dialogue. There's a lot of good they're not necessarily memorable, but they are good like character development and subtle comedy.
This is one. So yeah, exactly. And actually,
Like the back and forth with the stooge.
the Stooge.
Trying to tell, we're not stealing it, we're borrowing it.
Yeah.
After reporting any illegal activity.
We're just borrowing it. It's a scientific community, man.
Right. We'll give it back.
There's one of the ways so I think helps when you approach this movie is not to think so much in terms of scenes, but in terms of characters. Because again, that how every scene is very linear and builds into the next scene, which is standard storytelling, except the little thing that's dropped at the very beginning doesn't get picked back up until like an hour later, and you're like, oh, that's hysterical. So and what made me think of that is that Angelica Houston, Jeff Goldblum exchange right before they go find the jaguar shark. But that builds off of so much other stuff early on in the beginning between Bill Murray and Jeff Goldblum and Angelica Houston.
Right.
I think it's hysterical.
Well, Bill Murray says at one point about Angelica Houston, she's a rich bitch. She was raised by maids.
I wrote that in one of my favorite quotes.
Yeah, I don't want to step on quotes, but there's some really good quotes also during that rescue scene
Oh
as
my
well.
God.
And back to the point about like characters and just scenes with particular people, I think that it doesn't get any better when Klaus and Zissou are talking, and he's like, "What?" Zissou says, "We're in the middle of a lightning strike at Rescue Op, Klaus. What's your deal?" And Klaus says, "I'm sick of being on B Squad." And Zissou says, "You might be on B Squad, but you're the B Squad leader." And Klaus says, "I've always thought I'd use my two dads." He always said that, and please don't let anyone make fun of me for saying so. And then Steve says, I can't guarantee that, Klaus, but I'll try. Okay, well, that's my favorite scene.
Related to that scene and related to John, what you were talking about with the rescue at the end, there's just little minor things that are happening, like when Owen Wilson and William Dafoe go to like rescue them.
They hear the gunfire.
Yeah, they hear the gunfire, and like the awkward way they have to go through that rotating door is hysterical. I really love when they're running out and Bill Murray's like trying to radio somebody, and he goes, "This thing's out of juice," and he hands it to somebody else, and the other person just smashed it. I'm like, what is it? Why would you do that?
Oh man, okay. A lot of good scenes, and yeah, we'll get to more quotes here in a second.
Oh, the mutiny. I also wrote down.
I forgot about the mutiny.
Whole
Yeah,
mutiny scene.
Well, yeah, when all the interns leave. Well, when what's her face, and then all the interns leave.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and but again, Willem Dafoe, again, not trying to move ahead, but he totally steals that scene because Bill Murray's instructions, and I wrote them down, not to jump on quotes here, but look, if you're not against me, don't cross the line. If yes, do. Right, which makes no sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he crossed it. He was like, "You're against me." And he was like, "Oh, I need to do it.
Do it again.
Do it again. I misunderstood.
I'm not against you. I'm just gonna stand here." Yeah, that was his instructions were very confusing.
Do you all not like me anymore? Oh my God.
All right, well, listen, we got to do the next category, which is the Heath Ledger Award for scene stealing, which is kind of good timing here. I put down 3 people. Add more if you want. I got Zissou, Klaus, and I also put Alistair. I think that Jeff Goldblum is pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, Jeff Goldblum needs to be on every scene stealing list anytime he's in a movie.
Anytime he's in a movie, he steals it. But
I'll go first on this one. It's Klaus for me.
Same.
Yes.
All right. Okay. This is where we get Lambert a little more engaged here. This is not necessarily about this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Next couple categories. Dante's Peak. First peak, I put down iconic hats. Right? The red woolen. We got red woolen caps that they wear throughout. It's obviously a reference to Jacques Cousteau. And if you didn't know him, he was actually the co-inventor of the modern aqualung.
Interesting.
Fun. Here are my nominees for iconic hats. I've got Oddjob, who wears his bowler hat for the Bond movies, right? I got Marty McFly with the hypercolor baseball cap. That's like Marty McFly Jr. I guess and then he wears a little.
That's Back to the Future 2.
Yes, it is. To be clear, I got Willy Wonka's top hat, and I got the Indiana Jones fedora.
Ooh.
Any other nominees?
That is a good one. I had forgotten about Odd Job, and then you said that, and I was like, "Ooh, that's a good one."
I'd put the McFly one in there. That's a throwaway, but I wanted to mention a hypercolored baseball cap. We don't get to talk about that nearly enough. Fedora?
It's probably the fedora.
Okay.
I respect that. I agree.
All right, Owen Wilson. What is his peak? It's not this. We already said basically. We definitely already said the answer, but I don't know which one it is. So Bottle Rocket's kind of the big thing he does. We didn't mention Armageddon, which is in '98.
I knew he was in it, but like again, he wasn't the main. He was a secondary, so he was in his
comic
wheelhouse.
relief.
He's a really good comic relief in that one.
And he dies.
Yeah, worst possible experience imaginable. That's all you had to say.
Yeah.
Worst. What is that?
Well,
What he says?
I'm
or worst
on it, and
environment
you're
imaginable.
Chewie. Have you even seen Star Wars?
Shanghai Noon's in 2000. Meet the Parents is in 2000. Zoolander is 2001. Royal Tenenbaums is 2001. And Behind Enemy Lines is 2001.
Big year.
Actors just don't make 3 movies in a year anymore. That's crazy.
Big year.
Starsky and Hutch and this are both in 2004. Wedding Crashers 2005. He does Cars and You, Me, and Dupree in 2006. And then kind of comes back with Loki in 2021.
It's Wedding Crashers.
Wedding Crashers would be on my list. Although I don't think it's his peak, but I think Cars was because that became such an iconic film that
it's a big deal.
Yeah, that's a really big deal. But I would agree with you, John. I think Wedding Crashers would.
I think early 2000 middle 2000s, 2004, 2005. I mean, you can't get any better than his run from 04 to 06 is crazy.
Legendary.
He does a couple car sequels, and
Yeah.
obviously he's in Disney parks now and all that stuff. He's had a good career. Bill Murray. This is going to be a tough one, I think, because I almost feel like there's a couple different like time frames for Bill Murray, maybe even 3. Like SNL early, then you've got like leading actor, and now you've got like older Bill Murray. So here's what I've got. I got SNL in 75, does that for a little bit. Caddyshack in 80, Stripes is in 81. I think that's, again, early comedy for me. Ghostbusters is in 84. That, by the way, grossed $238 million. That's the most in a movie he's ever grossed. He does Scrooged in 88, and Ghostbusters 2 in 89, and What About Bob in 91, and then Groundhog Day in 93. Kind of handful of random movies at that point, and then comes back with Lost in Translation in 2003. He was nominated, he won the best. He was nominated for Best Actor Oscar, and he won the Golden Globe. And then he's obviously been in a whole bunch of Wes Anderson movies and independent films too. But those are kind of the big ones. So, peak for Bill Murray, Lambert.
Groundhog Day.
Well,
I mean, especially when you consider the build-up. Like, it's hard to say Ghostbusters, because Ghostbusters was great, but then like you look at what he did after that, it's like he's still kind of like
a lot of ensemble stuff,
right? A lot of ensemble stuff, but then he starts getting into the singular stuff, and like with Scrooged and
I forgot about Scrooge
and Groundhog Day.
Scrooge is my favorite on this list, but I think I always forget.
At least that's his first peak.
Sure.
Yeah, if you think about it as multiple peaks.
Yeah, he's got multiple peaks, but like the first one for like young Bill Murray, younger, is probably Groundhog Day. At least that's what I think.
Yeah,
I think that's good. I do want to shout out What About Bob. That's maybe my favorite movie that he's in. I don't know. It's pretty tough.
I feel like that one's very underrated because not a lot of people reference it the way people reference Goosebumps or Groundhog Day. But What About Bob is a phenomenal Ghostbusters. Yeah,
I was like Goosebumps.
Ghostbusters.
Like, he could have been in Goosebumps. I don't know.
Cut that out.
No, leave it in.
No,
yeah,
leave it.
Well, and now he's almost become like this larger than life character. There's I don't know if this is true or not, but it's if you want him to be in a movie, you have to call an 800 number and leave a message, and he will like listen to it and maybe just show up. He's just known for just maybe showing up on set.
Wow.
That's awesome.
And
I want to do that.
I want that lifestyle.
He may agree to a movie, and then you will not hear from him for months. And because there's documentaries about this where it's just the directors and writers are
difficult to work with,
and they're waiting for him. They're like, we don't know if he's going to show up, and he'll just appear. I'm here. Does this thing. He just shows up to parties. There's the one story about him like going into a restaurant and just taking a fry off someone's plate and saying, I'm probably butchering this story, but taking a fry and then saying, no one will ever believe this, and then just eating it and leaving. Like, No one will ever believe you. Like it's
That's so awesome.
yeah. I mean, and I hope all this is true, and whether it's not is or not, I don't care. I'm gonna believe that it is.
Well, and I think
But I'll also tell you-
the making of Ghostbusters, that was their fear. Like they didn't hear from him, so they didn't know if he was going to show up or not. And then he shows up, and he knew everything.
knew
he
it.
was like he was fine, but
Yeah.
like they were like, is he gonna?
I think every
Is
one
he
of
gonna
them,
be here?
every one of them, even the newest ones.
Yeah.
That's just Bill Murray.
You know, when you say that, I didn't know all this about his personal, or his working life or whatever, but it actually just makes me love his character, or like him playing Steve Zissou even more, because that's kind of the Steve Zissou character of like, I'm just doing this. I'm just doing that. I love that. Like the Fry thing that you said, I could see Steve Zissou doing that. No one
Right.
will believe this.
I'm just doing whatever I want. I don't give a shit about you at all. All right, Wes Anderson. I already rattled off all the movies, but I do think it's before we decide what his peak is, it is worth mentioning. He's also won a lot of awards and grossed a lot of money. So here's his box office as far as top 5. 5th is Asteroid City with 53.2 million. Isle of Dogs, 64 million. Moonrise Kingdom, 68 million. Royal Tenenbaums, 71 million. I already mentioned Grand Budapest, 172 million. That's a fucking lot of money. Nominations, I'll go in order. He was nominated for Best Original Screenplay in 2001. These are all Academy nominations. In 2001 for Royal Tenenbaums. 2009, nominated for Best Animated Feature with Fantastic Mr. Fox. 2012, Best Original Screenplay again for Moonrise Kingdom. In 2014, he was nominated for Best Picture, Best Director, Best Original Screenplay for The Grand Budapest Hotel, and then also again, Best Animated Feature for Isle of Dogs in 2018. So what?
Did he win anything?
I don't think he's won anything yet.
Okay,
At least not Academy Awards.
Just curious.
So, Sywell, knowing all the movies and your favorite, and also box office and nominations, what do you think is his peak?
So I obviously my favorite is Royal Tenenbaums, but I don't think that was his peak. I legitimately would argue that the Grand Budapest Hotel is his peak, because it's the one. I mean, you just heard the box office, $171 million or whatever, compared to all of his others. It's the one Wes Anderson movie that most people have seen, and those who haven't seen it have heard about.
Yeah, I
think they should see it.
Lambert, do you have any other? You want to dissent?
I have no opinions on what his peak could possibly be. I've only seen one of them.
Have you? Well, that's actually a fun question, though. Which of these have you heard of?
Yeah,
All of them.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're
Well, except for like Isle of Dogs. Don't know what the hell that one.
That was a weird one.
it was weird.
I got nothing on
It was like
Grand
animated-
Budapest, Moonrise Kingdom. Like I've heard of them. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, then I think Grand Budapest Hotel has to win with the box office and with the award nominations. But I agree with you that Royal Tenenbaums for me is the favorite.
Yeah, that's my personal peak for him was the
Mhm.
Royal Tenenbaums.
All right. Next category, Quoth the Raven. I've already said a couple, so I'm gonna defer. Let's start with Lambert.
Well,
Just say one.
so I liked. So it's actually right at the beginning of. Well, it was. Is it roll? And I can't remember exactly what he says, but he's the jaguar shark, and he's like, "Was it really?" He was like, "Well, those are the first 2 words that came into my head."
Yeah, which I think is all the other
Which is
creatures he's named.
Mhm.
Same thing.
which, and I was actually thinking about this. Actually, you know what? I'll save that for later. I'll save that for thoughts.
Okay.
I'll save that one.
All right. I get some thoughts.
I have some thoughts too.
I have many thoughts.
I'll say Zissou says, "Don't point that gun at him. He's an unpaid intern."
I have that on my list. I love that.
Yeah. Okay.
There's
Sywell,
too
go.
many.
Oh my God, I've got so many, but I'll start with this one. Sari, this is probably my son Ned. We just met. Just the way he says it.
Yeah. Lambert, you got any more?
Well, I mean, it was our opening. Like that was a pretty good one.
Yeah.
It's like, revenge. It's like, yeah, that's again a good cutting line.
I think a lot of the quotes that I've got are all from Zissou, and they're just one-liners. Son of a bitch, I'm sick of these dolphins.
I've got hold on. I'm just trying to think of some of the ones we haven't.
I'll
said
say
yet.
another one.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh shit, swamp leeches! Everybody, check for swamp leeches and pull them up.
Am I the only one that got hit?
Nobody else got hit. I'm the only one. What's the deal?
Waldarski, go get the keys to the fishing boat and throw them in the water. No, wait. They might have another set. Just blow it up. Anne Marie, do all the interns get Glocks? No, they all share one.
Supposedly, Cousteau and his cronies invented the idea of putting walkie-talkies into the helmet, but we made our own with a special rabbit here on the top, so we could pipe in some music.
So weird.
If we don't handle this right, we're gonna all get murdered, including her unborn British child.
Oh man. We'll split it into 2 groups. I'll take Ned, Ogata, and Wolodarski. Thanks from Klaus. Thanks a lot for not picking me. That's my favorite.
I'm sorry I didn't acknowledge your existence all these years. It won't happen again.
The last one I got is, which again sets the premise for the movie. Now, if you excuse me, I'm going to go on an overnight drunk, and in 10 days, I'm going to set out to find the shark that ate my friend and destroy it. Anyone wants to tag along is more than welcome.
That's a good one.
I have one more from Steve Zissou, and I actually have 2 from other people in the movie, which I know is hard. I love the dictator but not read at the end of the letter to the fan, or whatever. Dictated but not read. And then the 2 that I have that are not Steve Zissou. One is Ossery, or Michael Gambon, early in the beginning. What sort of expression is the lad wearing on his face? And I don't know why I love that line so much.
Because it's Michael Gambon, how he delivers it.
Doing his thing. And this is Bill, what is his name? Bud Court. Jeff Goldblum. How'd you get my espresso machine? Well, we fucking stole it, man.
That was a good one. That was a good one.
The You're Canceled category, do we need to get rid of anything given the year? I have nothing. I wrote, quote, nothing. This is awesome.
I wrote down maybe you might need to get rid of the Bull Dyke jokes.
Yeah.
Because there's like 2 of them in the movie, but they're very minute.
They're very like.
I wonder though, and I'm not advocating for that kind of humor, but I do think it demonstrates the complete lack of awareness and contempt that he has for any other people that are not him.
And that's why I put the maybe, because maybe
there's probably a way to do it without
saying those specific words.
He does he already is clearly
he's out of touch.
Machismo, like he clearly does not think he thinks women are below him for the most part, except for his ex-wife who puts him in his place.
Yeah.
Another Spider-Man again. Who are we remaking it if we make it today? Let's start with Alistair Hennessy. So Jeff Goldblum. Jeff Goldblum was 52 at the time this movie was made. I've got 2 nominees. You guys have any?
Go ahead.
I've got Robert Downey Jr.
Okay.
But actually, this next one's, I think, better. I think he can play aloof way better, which is Brad Pitt.
Okay, I could see that. Modern Brad Pitt.
Older Brad Pitt.
I personally have, of your list, Robert Downey Jr. for me.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote down Jeff Goldblum, but modern Jeff Goldblum. Like the one.
Do it again.
Yeah. Like, do it again, but do it as him now. What? How many years? 30 years on? 20 years on?
He could totally do it again.
He totally could do it. Well, that's the problem. Like, I look at this and, like, all of the, like, has Kate Blanchett aged at all? No. She could totally do it again.
No, but she was 35 at the time. So now she's in her mid-50s.
But she doesn't. She looks.
She could probably pull it off again.
The same.
I got a better nominee for her. But okay,
another one for Alistair. Yeah, Ben Stiller.
Okay.
Oh,
I like that one a lot.
I like that. That's good.
Yeah,
because you mentioned like the aloofness, and I'm like, yeah, he can do that because he's done it before.
I'm trying to picture who could play that scene with the pirates playing poker and just going, "Did you hear to rescue me?" Fold. And then who could I envision being in that? And I think you're right. Ben Stiller could do a good job with that. All right, who's gonna be Klaus now? Dafoe was 49 when he made this movie.
Dafoe could do it again.
And by the way, I wrote down Willem Dafoe.
Willem Dafoe. That's the only one I have.
Again, has he aged? No.
God, no. Okay, I think is that a clear? Just keep him in there.
Or wait, what the fuck is his name?
Give us some clues.
Christoph.
Waltz.
Yeah.
Oh, he could be.
Oh, he could do it.
I wonder how old he is.
He's probably older, but who cares? Shave his beard because it's all gray.
But he could do it. You're right.
He is. I can't even do that math. He's like 70.
What year?
56.
56. So he's in his 60s.
Yeah. Is that right?
Yeah.
He's almost 70.
Yeah.
67.
He's late
7. He could still do it.
He could still do it.
He could still do it. Okay.
That's awesome.
Who's gonna who gonna recast for Eleanor Zissou? So Angelica Houston was 53 at the time.
We can't recast her.
No.
Well, if we're keeping
Well,
Jeff Goldblum, I guess we gotta keep her too. Well, I'll tell you who I got for Zissou. I put down Naomi Watts. I'm trying to think. Most the characters I'm putting there are like British or Australian, just kind of uppity.
Mm-hmm.
I also have Kate. I actually think Kate Winslet would do a really good job with this.
So I actually have Kate Winslet for Jane.
Do you really?
I do.
Okay.
I think I actually do think Kate Winslet could play Jane Winslet Richardson, and I don't remember.
But she can't be pregnant though, because she's going to be a little bit too old.
Yeah,
for that.
I would agree with that. But I think you would probably have to play around with the character a little bit. But I think Kate Winslet could do a really nice job there. And if I remember right, I think reading somewhere that she was actually supposed to be in this movie, and then something happened and she couldn't be.
That makes sense. I mean, she probably would have been. Well, she would have been way younger than Kate Blanchett at the time.
Agreed. Yeah,
in her mid-20s, I guess,
Yeah.
most likely, because something like that.
But I think that would have worked at the time. No, don't get me wrong. Kate Blanchett is awesome, but like I think I could easily see Kate Winslet at the time playing the same role.
I actually think Emily Blunt would do a really good job with Jane. That's who I put on there
I
for
like
recasting.
That one.
I know we skipped past Eleanor, but let's just wrap up Jane since we were talking about it.
Yeah, sorry.
Kate Winslet could do a good job. I'm voting for Emily Blunt.
Emily Blunt. Yeah, I'd go with that.
I'm down with that.
Do we have Eleanor? Can we just say Kate Winslet? Put Kate Winslet in there.
Kate Winslet there? Sure.
Let's put her in there.
Okay.
All right.
We're making a movie.
Now we got the two main leads. We got Ned and we got Steve. So for Ned, Owen Wilson was 36 at the time when he was in this movie. So
I didn't pay attention to any of that.
an actor who's in his mid-30s-ish.
Let me see if I wrote one name down. Let me see how old he is.
Or early 40s. It doesn't matter. I mean, I got the person I put down is
He's 35.
who is it?
Michael Cera.
Yep.
God. Yeah.
That's the same. Yeah.
Did you put down Michael Cera
Michael
too?
Cera.
All right. I'm not even gonna. I said Joseph Gordon-Levitt, but I actually like Michael Cera exponentially better.
Okay, but I can respect that.
Steve Zissou. So Murray is 54. The person I have is actually exactly 54.
Really?
I do. You want me to share mine first?
Sure.
Yeah, I don't have one for this.
Do you have one?
Yes, I do. He's
You
way
you
older.
go first this
Hold on,
time.
Let me see how old he is first. He's way older. But he's amazing because I love him. Michael Keaton.
Man, I can't wait for Beetlejuice 2 to come out.
Oh, it's gonna be great.
All right. I agree that
Who's
he
your
could.
guy? 54.
I had Paul Rudd.
You would almost have to like age him up a little.
I know.
Because he
A
doesn't
little bit.
because he doesn't look old enough to
Yeah.
be at like the end of the line, the end of the road.
Yeah, he's a vampire.
You know
But
what I mean?
for me, recasting that, I was trying to recast someone who could pull off that subtle dancing scene at the moonlight, and I think Paul
You're
Rudd
not
could do
wrong.
that really well. Michael Keaton's very intriguing though. Michael Keaton can do no wrong.
He
Did
can
you
do
see him?
anything.
Did you see him at the Oscars recently?
I did not. I did not watch.
Did
the
you see
I
that?
didn't.
So just put in just this is how awesome Michael Keaton is. You got Arnold Schwarzenegger and you got Danny DeVito up there, and they're just out of nowhere. They just start talking trash about Batman and about how those two
yeah.
villains.
Yeah.
And he looks, and the camera goes to Michael Keaton, and he does he motions with his hands. Come on, I'll bring it on. And I was like, God, but it was totally improv. I'm like, fucking Michael Keaton's the best. All right,
He's awesome.
okay. To stream or not to stream, is this better as a TV show? Sywell.
No.
Yeah, I don't.
No? Here's my idea for a TV show, which I kind of agree. I put question mark here, but what if it's a prequel and it's like a young Zissou and his squad, like finding all of these, like making the documentaries, but it's like a full, it's like an anthology series where every episode is them finding another creature species. basically all the documentaries that they have made in the movie. This is like
Actually
them
showing
this is
them
showing
doing
them
it.
Showing
making
them doing them.
Right. Instead of just like kind of referencing them, be like, oh, the good old days.
I just like to see Zissou like at his peak like power, as
So-
opposed to like this old washed up has been.
So I wouldn't disagree. I would watch this, right? Because
Yeah.
hopefully your series here that you're creating has some humor. But I think so much of what I love about this film is that it's past the point where Steve Zissou cares. Because like
That's true.
I think some of the early stuff, I get the vibe. I could be very wrong, but I get the vibe that he, at one point, really genuinely cared about what he was doing, and that now he's just at a place where he's like, I'm old and past it. I don't care anymore. And I worry a prequel series would bring us a different Steve Zissou, like a very different Steve Zissou.
Have you ever seen the show documentary? Wow, documentary now.
No.
Okay, it's got Bill Hader, and it's got what's the other guy from SNL that does all the funny voices? Fred Armisen.
There we go.
All right.
Okay.
And it's those two, and Helen Mirren I think is like she's like the narrator, but it's like an unsolved mysteries, and every single episode is a new crime that was being committed, and those two are like playing different characters of like, here's the story of so and so that did this thing. It's like a crime or it's like a historical event, but it's all satirical, and they're playing it straight up, but it's all just ridiculous nonsense.
This sounds right up my alley.
Like one of the first episodes I watched was Bill Hader is accused of committing a crime. Actually, I'm sorry. Fred Armisen is in jail for a crime that he didn't commit, and Bill Hader is also in jail, and he's the one who committed this crime, but he's in jail for a different crime. And they're interviewing them both, kind of back and forth. And it's pretty clear Bill Hader like framed him, and he's just laughing about it. But Fred Armisen is so stupid, he doesn't get it. And the reason why he got in jail is he got in a fight with the judge, like because he's like. Anyway, it's one of the funniest things I've ever seen. I can picture this being a good show like that, where it's very satirical. I don't know,
I can get on board with that.
Okay.
That sounds awesome.
Like,
now
again,
I wrote down
mockumentary
Yeah.
style.
Well, and maybe you could do both. In that, like, you could have like the same plot of the movie of like part 1, part 2, and like finding the jaguar shark, but then having some of the flashbacks to understanding like how this was made. So like you can elongate some of that so you can kind of get into both a little
Yeah.
bit.
Okay.
Maybe.
Yeah, all right. Before we get into some nerd, my brain can't even work right now. You can cut that up. Jesus,
Nope, keep
this is
that in
stupid.
too. Before
God
Nerd
damn it,
Facts,
okay.
Tomorrow's
Before
another day.
nerd facts, tomorrow is another day. What happens next? Sywell, what happens next?
I wrote down two possible next. One's optimistic and one's pessimistic.
Okay.
Okay. So the optimistic thing is I wrote down that he reinvigorates and he continues to be like the Steve Zissou of like, I'm going all over the place.
Finding the shark spark, relit the spark,
Yeah,
so to speak.
yeah, exactly. Like he rediscovered his purpose because, and I think there's some elements in the film that suggest that that's what happens. The actual some of his exchange when he sees the shark for the first time, which I actually think is a very moving scene, and then also the ending, the walking montage, which so I see that he reinvests in the Zissou society and grows it. I also think when he puts what's his name, Warner, the little kid on his shoulders and walks down, I'm like, oh, we're seeing a new generation. That's where I want it to go, but I love that Wes Anderson never really gives you a real resolution to the movie. And so I also wrote down, well, maybe he just quits and becomes a depressed alcoholic.
Right. Yeah, and maybe both happen.
Yeah, and both.
I put another documentary. I think that would I would like to
Yeah.
see that happen. A reinvigorated version.
On what?
I don't know.
Finding something new, or like
Perhaps.
Probably.
another exploratory one on the jaguar shark, because they just found it and then left.
Yeah.
So that there's been no
do
research.
you have
on
more to
this.
add to this, Simon? Because you've always got a very elaborate next
that's
story.
true.
Not really.
Okay.
Because I'm not as familiar with.
Then maybe
this.
go into that jaguar shark storyline you just started.
But but yeah, I mean, like, I guess it's a, and again, this is probably for categories later, but like, what was his motivation? Was he just trying
It
to
wasn't
make,
just
was he trying to
revenge?
make enough money to retire because he didn't have any?
Yeah.
Like, and like this was kind of the last gasp. Was it the last gasp to like cement a legacy, or was it the last gasp to like I need enough money to last me until I'm dead? I
Well-
feel like it was if you're putting a gun to my head, it's more about money,
Yeah.
and it's more about securing his future, not necessarily from a legacy perspective of like I need something that's going to be successful so it can make money. And then I can either continue doing this if I want to, or I could just ride off in the sunset and like I don't really give a shit. I've done everything. I've contributed everything. But like the whole Jaguar shark, all they did was find it and leave.
Mm-hmm.
There's still a lot of research that they have to do, and there could be a lot of hilarity that would ensue on
Right.
trying to find it again. But then also you got to get. How are you going to research it? You going to tag it? Who's going to do that? How many people are going to die trying to do that?
I picture
Oh,
Klaus getting down there and stabbing
right,
it like
trying to-
without any equipment on at all.
No shark cage, no nothing. Or maybe like someone goes down a shark cage, the thing's big enough, it just eats the whole damn shark cage.
Mm-hmm. That was
You know what I mean?
And then
it was,
but then the next scene would be like inside his stomach, and he's still like filming.
like it was huge. It could have swallowed the sub.
Vikram,
Yeah.
are you rolling? Vikram,
Vikram,
are you rolling?
Vikram, are you rolling? Vikram, are you still rolling? And Vikram's inside the stomach.
yeah,
still
rolling. I do think that does speak to, and Sywell, you alluded to at the beginning, a little bit about Zissou and the fact that he says revenge so deadpan, but clearly doesn't care. And Lambert, you even said this. I
Yeah.
think that's also the point of the story is that he really is doing this because it's almost like a reason for him to get paid to do this again.
Mm-hmm.
And those are his original, like, the reason why he's doing this.
Right.
And as he grows as a person with Ned's help and with everyone else's help and the whole experience, maybe it's not about money anymore. Like that's, I think that's what it's trying
maybe
to.
It's about both.
Right, but
Maybe it's not just
about
about
money. Yeah, I love it.
It's like I'm still going to get paid for this, but I'm actually like I kind of enjoy it again.
I'm enjoying it
Like,
again. Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
having fun again.
Mhm.
And it's also I also think this is we're gonna do something that's gonna be successful, but I'm having fun doing it. Whereas like the last 10 years have just been the grind.
Mhm.
I have some
The grind,
inner
the
nerd
grind.
thoughts about that too.
Yeah.
Okay,
So,
let's
yeah.
save that for a minute because we got
Yeah,
last category before that, which are nerd facts.
I added several to this too.
Good, please.
Sweet.
Do you want to start us off, Sywell? We'll go in a circle.
Oh, sure. That works for me. Okay. Kate Blanchett never rehearsed with the crew and hadn't even met most of them before filming the nighttime electric jellyfish scene in which she first appears in the movie to add spontaneity to the scene.
I like that. Makes sense, right?
They wanted it to be a frosty big introduction. Yeah.
Which it very much
it
is.
very much is.
So the movie is dedicated to, again, Jacques Cousteau, and his ship was the Calypso. Zissou's ship is called the Belafonte. Harry Belafonte became famous singing Calypso songs. And in the beginning sequence, when Zissou is first introduced to the Italian audience, the model of the Belafonte on his desk is actually a model of the Calypso, but it's painted blue instead of black. A nod to Jacques Cousteau.
Right. One fish, dubbed the Hydronicus inverticus, was left on the cutting room floor because it was deemed too ridiculous. It is a fish that can turn itself inside out. I would have loved to see.
I would have
that,
loved
'cause
to see that
all
too.
the- like that was too ridiculous compared to everything else that was actually in the
Yeah.
movie.
That's where Anderson, he drew the line.
He drew the line.
Especially because there is, I don't know about fish, but I know that there are some creatures that have a version of this ability. So, like, I love that this one was the one that was considered too ridiculous.
Can't do that. No one will believe that.
Wes Anderson watched many movies set on the ocean to see how the sea movement was simulated. He found that in The Black Stallion, which was made in 1979, there was only one scene set in a hallway that had the camera rocking. And so he decided to have just one rocking hallway scene in this movie.
Yeah, you don't. There are movies where you're like, I'm on a boat,
Yeah.
and you can feel it. There's, you lose complete track of where this whole movie is taking place.
Completely. There is literally only one, and it's a really relatively minor scene. So,
Uh-huh. Hydrogen psychosis, or crazy eye, is a play on an actual diving malady known as nitrogen narcosis.
Interesting. Gwyneth Paltrow was originally set to play Jane Winslet Richardson, but couldn't because of scheduling conflicts. Nicole Kidman expressed interest, and Wes Anderson hired her, but then she had to bow out because of other commitments, and Julianne Moore actually requested the role. It eventually went to Kate Blanchett, and Anderson later admitted that the character it was inspired by Kate Winslet.
There we
Mm,
go.
Got it. Good job.
Hey,
We did nailed it.
Having said that, though, I actually, of all these characters, I really kind of like Julianne Moore playing that.
I do too. I really do.
That would have been interesting. Maud
Yeah, that would have been cool.
Playing it like Maud, too.
playing it like
Yeah.
Maud. Yeah.
Very, very thorough.
I'd watch that. Wes Anderson has staged the walking sequence in the final credits as an homage to the adventures of Buckaroo Banzai across the eighth dimension. Made in 1984, it also features Jeff Goldblum, and it's an amazing movie.
That movie's bonkers.
It's so crazy and makes no sense.
Mm-hmm. The ship seen in the film as the Bellefontaine was originally a Royal Navy minesweeper constructed in 1959. In 2006, it was converted to a yacht and sold to a private owner. It's actually still in service today under the name Mojo.
Mhm.
You knew
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, I added that one.
Oh, okay.
That's awesome.
I just thought that was really fascinating.
That is
Like,
very fascinating.
and I double checked the ship's registry; it's still on the water.
Jesus.
Awesome. While the jaguar shark is obviously fictional, there is an actual jaguar cat shark. It was originally discovered during the filming of a Discovery Channel documentary about the Galapagos Islands, but was not officially recognized as a new species of cat shark until 2012. Because of the distinct spot pattern of the scales, the species received the common name of jaguar cat shark in honor of Life Aquatic.
Mhm.
He was just ahead of his time. I mean, basically,
That's the way I look at it.
Yeah.
Because the fish was or the cat shark was originally found in 1995, but it takes years to classify something as a new species. And by the time it was classified as a new species, this movie had already come out, and enough marine biologists had seen it that they said it's got some real fancy Latin name,
it's got a fancy,
but
all of them have fancy
but they
Latin
always
names.
give a common name, and so the guy who got the naming rights was a huge fan of this movie, so named it the Jaguar Cat Shark.
I love that.
That's awesome.
During filming, Bill Murray actually became a certified diver. Really commitment to his craft.
I don't know who's next. Okay. Noah Baumbach and Wes Anderson named several of the places and crew members of this movie spontaneously after things and people they saw around them at the Italian restaurant where they held many of their meetings writing this movie. And I can never pronounce this correctly. Precipita Island, for instance, was named for one of the dishes on the menu. Some of the characters' names were named after waiters and patrons at the restaurant.
Love it.
Yeah.
Hey.
Pesca Spada.
Pescapata, yeah.
Pesca
sure,
Spada.
Sure.
Kate
Sure.
Apparently, they like wrote and designed this entire movie at one restaurant, and
Really?
yeah, they just met there over and over again.
Man, that's like the Taylor Swift of writing. They just they just are inspired by their surroundings, and in a day,
They
Yeah.
just do it.
new song.
New song.
I mean, new screenplay. Kate Blanchett was actually pregnant during filming, which maybe that's, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if that's part of the script already, or maybe they add that in because of, I mean, it's kind of hard to not acknowledge that.
Acknowledge it. Yeah, that's fair.
Adds another layer to the way Zissou is, engaging with her. Same thing with Ned, right? It's a
Mhm.
different little more to his personality.
Exactly.
There is a real Steve Zissou. During the end credits, the filmmakers acknowledged that the real Steve Zissou is a prominent attorney in New York City, specializing in complex federal litigation.
Yep.
Man. All right. Finally, to our inner nerd thoughts. Did we learn anything? Anything that came up? I've got one. I'll start.
Mhm.
My first question was when I was watching this movie, did they ever actually sell the Zissou Adidas shoes? And I was like, man, I want a pair of those.
Yeah, right.
And just so you know, I did research after I thought that, and they did.
Really?
Only 100 pairs were produced. And basically, it comes out, Adidas dropped an official Zissou. It was called Zissou Rom sneaker. But the 100-pair limited collection was available only at the We Love Green Festival in Paris. And then it went away.
Huh. I had no idea.
Talk about a collector's item right there.
Yeah, but you can find it on eBay.
All right, I got a couple more
maybe,
thoughts,
or an
but
auction.
you go next.
So the one thought, just because I, having seen Bill Murray in several movies, was how much of this was scripted and how much of this was him.
Yeah, I don't know.
You know what I mean? Like how much did he turn this into? Like, and I guess again, not familiar with Wes Anderson. Some people are very like, no, read the words on the paper. You don't need to go off book. And other directors are, yeah, take another one, take another one, take another. Like we talked about earlier, of like shoot everything, and then we'll figure out. Like it might be something that you liked. It might be something that like maybe I don't see it, but then I look at it, and be like, you know what? When he went off book here, that works better. Let's use that instead of the script. That was the only thing that was going through my head the entire time, because it kind of like it plays to his personality, and it plays to the type of actor and the type of roles that he's had in the past. So it's like, how much of this stuff just was he just reacting to his environment, and it wasn't in the script, but it just worked.
That's a really good question, and I honestly don't know how Wes Anderson is.
I don't know how he is either.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of his movies. I don't think he lets people improvise necessarily, but I think that a lot of people who
Can you really stop Bill Murray?
well,
Right.
that's true. You're right. He's a different species for sure. But I do think that they have usually a really robust like people who contribute to writing. It's not just Owen Wilson and Noah Baumbach, but they also bring in like Jason Schwartzman and Luke Wilson and apparently Roman Coppola and a couple other people. So I wonder if those people, since they have such a diverse background of like comedy and improvisation and whatever, that maybe that kind of lends itself to feel like that.
Maybe.
Or it's Bill Murray and he can do
Or
whatever
it's
the fuck
Bill
he
Murray
wants.
being Bill Murray. Like, I don't know.
Well, especially if he's, and I don't know what it was like what it was like in 2004, but if he's as, I guess, difficult to work with as if he was at the time as difficult to work with as apparently he is now, then maybe that's just what Wes Anderson's like. Well, I want to cast this guy, so
Like, I know what I'm getting into.
I know. Yeah, exactly.
Like he's been doing it since Ghostbusters.
Yeah. So here I go. And let's let him do what he does.
Right.
I could see that.
He'll make it like we'll figure it out.
Yeah. My inner nerd thought, kind of going back to what we talked about earlier, of was Steve Zissou. So I called it like internalized capitalism, where I think this actually plays out in a lot of Wes Anderson films in ways that don't necessarily become apparent until you really like get away from the movie a little bit and start thinking about it or seeing his whole directing credits. But he plays a lot with like wealth and money and like where things are coming and going, and he does a lot of that very subtly throughout his movies. You see it hugely if you watch the Royal Tenenbaums and the Life Aquatic back to back.
Yep.
But there's elements in most of his movies. But just kind of a summary of what we talked about with Bill Murray in general. It's like all throughout the movie, every moment he's like, Vikram, get this. Vikram, cut that. Like, cut this. Like, oh, we got to do this. Like, even when his best friend was being eaten, he was like, is that thing rolling, referring to the camera, and then like, oh my God, I'm freaking out now. Like, everything's scripted. So I wonder, like, frequently what his actual motivations are, and that's kind of why I liked our discussion about what happens next. Is like, was he always an explorer in it for money? Was he an explorer that was in it for money, and now there's so much loss and grief in this movie? Is he losing and grieving the fact that he's no longer in it? Like, he's not in it for the right reasons anymore. He's only in it for money. Or was he losing the fact that he is performative and only because everything he does now has to match an image? And there's a really neat scene towards the end where I'm going to butcher the exact quote, where he says something to the effect of, I was worried that your story was going to make me look arrogant and like a dick. And now I'm not worried about it because I said those things and I did those things. And he's like, starts becoming more authentic right before he goes down and has an emotional moment with the jaguar shark.
And then of course, like Kate, like that was just the cover.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's kind of the point of the movie.
Yeah. I enjoy the fact that it's not settled.
I do too. And I have a couple more thoughts, but I want to end on that one because that's a very elegant, eloquent Well said. Nerd thought. Here's my last nerd.
Yeah.
The second to last one.
we could end on that.
But
Well,
we're not
let's
going
not.
to. But
We won't.
instead, I'm gonna.
That's his show anyway.
Instead, I've
whatever.
got 2 more things to add on, which is red cap and speedo, best team uniform? Question mark. In competition with the Nihilists from
The Nihilists are pretty good.
obviously from Big Lebowski, and also any dodgeball outfit from the movie Dodgeball.
Yes.
Jana says the dominatrix gear is her favorite, which is really, I don't know, interesting. Do you hear that?
That's interesting.
Last thought. Klaus is without a doubt underutilized.
100%.
I should have said this earlier. I want a spin-off show of just Klaus. And just call it Klaus. Not to be mistaken with Klaus, the Christmas movie.
No,
but
agreed. And I want his origin story. So that's where
Well, it could be.
that could be the streaming.
It could
I
be
want
two things.
I want to see his origin story. I want to see how he gets to where he is.
Well, and it depends because like if Zissou's like he rides off into like he made this great thing, he rides off into the sunset, Klaus takes over,
Yeah.
and then it's Klaus's ship, and then that's the show.
Oh, I'd watch that.
and we change.
And like maybe he keeps the same crew, but then you get like he'll recycle some, get some others, and it'll just be a completely different dynamic with him in charge.
the ship gets renamed like the Zissou.
Right.
The Belafonte,
Something like
the
that,
Zissou.
yeah. And maybe it's him and Ned like being partners. I don't know.
That underutilized room is now just where like the urn for Zissou.
The urn is,
It's a
yeah.
big old homage to him.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good. This is a good place to end.
That's a good show.
All right, Nerd Outreach to wrap this up. Thank yous as always. Thank you to my co-host John.
Hey.
Thank you to our executive producer for coming out from behind the table
There you go.
to join us. And I'm glad we did this one because it made Lambert have to watch a Wes Anderson movie, which
Mhm.
is still mind-boggling. And also, obviously, it's one of your favorites, so
Yeah,
we earmarked
absolutely.
it a long time ago.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. Thanks for inviting me out for this. Yeah, I've loved this conversation.
Thanks for having us.
Well, yeah, you are in my house.
That's right. All right, as always, we love our listeners, so please share, rate, etc. You can send us all the show suggestions to the Instagram, to the email account, all that stuff on social medias, and watch all of our Nerd Takes, Nerd Bites on YouTube, which we have a lot of those dropping here pretty soon. Our next episode preview, we're going to be doing Major League, which came out in 1989. For those of you who are good at math, that's 35 years ago.
Yeah, baseball season's around the corner.
We'll be doing having a lot of conversations about favorite baseball films. So start catching up. Look forward to that episode.
Yes, absolutely.
Well-
I don't think I'm gonna have to watch it. I mean, I will, but I won't need to.
I don't need to watch it either. I could start quoting it right now, but I won't. We'll save that for then.
Absolutely.
All right, until next time. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Bye-bye. Do you want to pause while you clean that up?
Yeah.
Listeners, Cywell just spilled a stag beer all over himself.
He was laughing.
He was laughing,
He
and
enjoyed
he does not laugh with just his mouth and his chest. It's a full body laugh. One might say convulsion. Oh, man.